All right, John, I heard your voice, so all present and accounted for. Richard Swezak.
Here.
Rob Lewandowski is out today, but he sent over his review of all the applications that were presented. DeAndrea is here. Bob Doan.
Here.
Al Regina.
Here.
And Ryan Thompson,
Here.
who is serving in a unofficial dual capacity. Thank you.
Awesome.
Ryan. So we have a relatively short agenda on correspondence, of course. We have one notice from NCEES advising us of the changes in the examination format, the timing of the exam and what you can bring. So that's a notification for the administrators, and unless there's a question, Jane will contact NCEES. Okay. There is no old business that I'm aware of other than the minutes, which I suppose we should do right now while we're on it. I reviewed the minutes myself and just noticed that we did have two applications that we'll discuss later relative to reconsideration, well, which are now on our agenda for reconsideration, but we did note that those are pending and they were noted in the minutes. So with that notice, I have personally no changes to the minutes. Are there any comments or corrections?
Nope. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of October 24th, 2023.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Richard. Thank you, John. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes as presented from October 24th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I'm going to skip over the reconsiderations at this time, if you don't mind. Just move through the regular agenda. We'll come back to those during our later review. So the next list of applicants are those who passed the computer-based testing for the PE exam through September and November. So that's all for information. So if we move on to page 3 of our regular agenda, we have one applicant for Class 1 exam that John DeWolf reviewed, Sahadrin Amin.
Okay. Getting my notes out. Yeah, he's a bachelor's from Bangladesh, but a PhD from Kansas. And he has indicated he has passed the principal and practice exams for the SC 16 hours. But we're supposedly approving him for both parts. So he's apparently taken the special structures exam, but not the other two. Is that correct, Jane?
You know what? I gotta double check. Give me a minute. If we want to come back to that.
Yeah, we'll come back because John's going to review the next group of applicants for Class 1 Credit Part 1, Adomit through Wang on page 3.
Okay. This is a picky thing, but Adamiat, on his application, he has the wrong date for his graduation. He says it's 2023 and it should be 19. I don't know whether that makes a difference or not. He's fine otherwise. And then I noticed on Kratos, he does not, Kratos or whatever it is, does not have the date of graduation on the application. I'm going to prove them but their application form has a mistake. And then Rosario is a Dominion Republic plus a U.S. Masters and is fine.
So the first applicant, Adomit, is just a typo on the graduation date, but the transcript or the verification is correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's got the approval form with the right date.
Okay, yeah. Well,
So,
that's what we like as engineers who can follow the specifications.
Okay. Um, So the
So-
only one I'm concerned about is Lucky, and it doesn't show that he has passed the FE exam. So I'm going to move approval of the entire group with verification that Lucky has already passed the first exam, the FE exam.
Okay.
Second.
Subject. Okay, JD, John, Bob, Dolan. Let me make a note here. Lucky, let's hope he is. Subject
I'm
to
sure he has, it's just a,
FE, yeah. All right, so the motion has been moved and seconded to approve Adamit through Wang on page 3, noting that was verifying that Kia Lucky has actually passed the fundamentals. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you, John. I reviewed the next group of applicants, which are for class 4. And I had only one issue that I just want to point out because the applicant made quite an issue in the presentation of the data to justify what I'm going to explain. This is a Kimberly D. Giovanni. And Kimberly makes a note that in the very first page of her application, she writes, the NCAAS model law and model rules define teaching of upper division, junior, senior, and graduate level design-related courses as the practice of engineering. At times, we've discussed whether or not time in school or teaching is truly engineering, but apparently the model law does that. So she was fully aware of it and that she did 25% of her occupation between June of 14 and August of 15. 25% was teaching and 75% was research. And the research she was doing was open channel, soil mechanics. Research was as a postdoctorate. She was doing scholarly work that contributed to the discipline. Conference presentations are listed below. So she was truly in the teaching mode. Then from August of 15 through June of 23, she was still a teaching, associate teaching professor, and then a full assistant teaching professor. And reducing her research to only 20%. Anyway, she taught full-time at Quinnipiac University, college level accredited courses. She was, I taught courses covering the breadth and depth of the curriculum, including design courses at the 3rd and 4th year level. The work was of a grade and character to qualify me to assume responsible charge of the work involved in the practice of engineering. So specifically, the courses were design of civil engineering systems, ecological engineering, hydrology and hydraulics with a lab, and all involved dedicated semester-long engineering design projects. So I'm just pointing that out. And then later on, from July of 23 to September 23, she takes over as the City of New Haven project manager, I guess is the way she described it in her discussion. So while only in this position for a short time, the role demonstrates progressive experience in my overall career, having moved from full-time teaching to practicing engineer. And she's done a flood mitigation project for the city rather of New Haven, stormwater control, but she's only been at it for a little while. So that's July of 23 to September and now through December. So I wanted to point that out and get a reaction before I made a recommendation.
John, Tony, what other state is she a PE in?
let me just see what I wrote down here on Di Giovanni. She's in Pennsylvania. Um, and sometimes I don't mark them all down, but that's the only one. Oh, I take that back. She's also in Virginia. So Virginia, yeah.
What's her degree status?
She is a PhD doctoral in environmental engineering from Drexel. She has a master's in environmental engineering from Drexel and a bachelor's in environmental engineering from Drexel from the period between 203 and 213.
She needs 2 years of experience, and certainly academic experience counts, and the postdoc is like academic experience. You're doing research a lot, you may be teaching or not, but that counts, and I certainly think the experience with the town is good. So what's her total years of experience?
Well, for the city of New Haven, it started in July of 23 and it's through today. So it's 5 or 6 months.
But what about the postdoc?
There's no experience other than teaching she's been teaching since she graduated. In other words, she graduated with a doctorate in 2013. She was then teaching from June 14 through August 15 at Villanova. Then she went on to Quinnipiac at 215 through today, through June of 23. So her whole experience has been teaching and research.
Okay, it sounds like she did fine to me.
Yeah.
Academic life is good experience.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out because she's aware of the technicality of it. And in her introductory remarks, she wanted to remind us that that's qualification and that she is licensed by another state, but that's just for the record. She's a professional engineer in Pennsylvania, and she is also registered. What I just say, if I'm going to go in Pennsylvania. Into Virginia, yeah. But bear with me. I may have grabbed two pages at once there. I stand corrected. She is licensed in Pennsylvania, which is what I wrote on my summary.
Did I
Pennsylvania.
answer your question, Bob? Bob?
Yes,
Was your question answered?
yes.
Okay, so having had that discussion, which I believe is appropriate, my recommendation is to note that, what did I want to do there? Oh, I made a note to myself and now I have to look at my legend. I just noted that 3 of the applicants are just expiring in December of 23, so that's fine. We're still on guard with that. And the other ones I find all there. I did note that one individual, Mr. Ronald Clark, had 2 DWIs early in his career, paid his fines in time, and recognized the folly of his ways. So he's all back to work and sober. So I have recommended that all of the applicants from Abdelmasseh through Enslin on our regular agenda, page 4, are appropriate for reciprocity class 4. Is there a motion to accept my recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Richard.
Second. I'll second.
Thank you, John. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion
Hey,
carries.
hey, Tony, I just want to clarify, just in case it isn't clear for the record, I'm not voting. I'm abstaining from all of these.
Correct, understood. I should have noted that. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. And for the record, again, Ryan is a dual license PELS. He is on the board as a full land surveying member, but given his background and experience, we believe that his knowledge and experience are very helpful and should be involved. So Ryan will be reviewing some of the applications and make recommendations. So that leads us to the next group of applicants, Fan through McBain, that Richard Swezak reviewed on page 4 of our regular agenda.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve all the applications. Just some notes is that Fan did get his degree in China and it was deemed equivalent by NCAAS. Abraham Getchu got his degree from Sweden and he was, I guess, lacking 16 hours in humanities and social sciences. But that, it was more of a technical degree and he probably had an adequate, support in I guess the lower class levels. Hugh had a degree from China and I guess he was deficient with 4 hours in the math and sciences, but that's not a significant discrepancy. And I believe, what do you have?
He probably had 162 credits.
Right. Well, that's just the way it was. And Joan Jua got a degree from India and it was deemed equivalent. So everybody else was a model law and had enough experience and appears to be registered up until at least this month for, I guess in another state. So I'll make that motion that we approve all of the applications.
From Fan through McBain on page 4 for class 4 reciprocity. So is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? All those in favor? Well, one discussion. That may be the first Sweden applicant we've ever seen.
Yes, yeah, I'm not,
They got one golfer and one engineer. All those in favor of the motion to approve Fan through McBain, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Rob Lewandowski was unable to attend today due to business commitments, but he did do a very thorough review of the applicants from Mandrick through Pino, and I'll leave out Potanchniak for a bit of discussion. So Rob has looked at all these applicants and had only one that was not a model law due to the fact that it was a technology degree from Wentworth, but he's got 16 years of experience. So his recommendation is to approve all applicants from Mandrick through Pino. Is there a motion to accept this recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Robert.
I'll second.
Who was that, Al?
Al?
Yep.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor of the motion to approve Mandrick through Pino, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Then I don't have the application, but he was a little concerned about William Potanchniak. He has a BS in electrical engineering from Roger Williams. He's got 10 years of experience. He writes, he's not, I'm sorry, it was a BS in environmental engineering. And he doesn't know whether or not that program was accredited at Roger Williams. So Jane, are we able to check that?
I can check that right now. Do you know what year the degree is from?
He didn't list that.
Okay, all right, let me check.
He's had 10 years of experience, so at least that might be a clue. But it's Roger Williams. He was not a model law by NCAAS evaluation, but that led him to wonder if that was relative to the environmental engineering program being not accredited. That was the concern. So we'll table that for a moment and move on to the next group of applicants reviewed by Bob Doan, which was Rafi through Wozniak.
Okay, to start off, I have a question on having a valid license, is a PE from Canada considered being licensed? Or does it require a PE from the US? Because Bing Song has a PE from Alberta, Canada, that expires on March of 24. And I didn't know if that counted or not.
Good question. I don't know the answer offhand, whether we had that agreement with Canada to, for reciprocity. I don't know the answer to that. It's a good question.
I know we
Okay.
accept the exams from there. We accept the exams from Canada, so
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, if we accept the exam, then I would say it's equivalent.
Okay.
I would
I'm
agree.
fine with it. He has a equivalent degree from China and a master's from Alberta. Oh, I'm sorry. He has a master's from China and he has a PhD from Alberta and a PE from Alberta. I'm fine with making a motion to.
He took both exams, Bob?
Yeah. Yes. Mhm.
So, yeah, I would think it's fine.
Okay. All right. I have two non-equivalent degrees, but one was 6 hours in general education. One, again, from University of Alberta, was short, 1 hour in general education. And I need two for Teisler and Timothy. I need to have their license verified. Teisler expired in 22 from Oregon, and Timothy was 9/23 from Pennsylvania. I just need a valid license, current license verified for those two. And with that, I will make a motion to approve the entire group from Rafi to Wozniak.
Okay,
Second.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. So motion is to approve Rafi through Wozniak on page 5 of our regular agenda with a verification of current licensure for Teisler and Timothy. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carried.
And if you want to get back to the other one,
Yes.
so it looks like Roger Williams only has 2 programs that are ABET accredited. BS in computer science and just BS in engineering is what they list on the ABET website.
But not necessarily the environmental engineering.
That's correct.
So subject to having NCEES verify whether or not that particular program is accredited, then we should table.
Well, are just more years of experience required if you have a non-ABET degree?
It comes down to the base curriculum, does it not, John? I mean, if you're talking environmental engineering and you did mostly chemistry and you didn't do any soils and mechanics, then you're not doing the core work that's the basis for the ABET evaluation.
I would agree. I would think we need to have the undergraduate degree evaluated by NCEES.
Will do.
See, because in the apparently, I don't have the application, but according to Rob's notes, he said it's not a model law engineer. Then he says not sure why it's not model law. So then he questioned, is it since it's environmental engineering, is it non-accredited? That's all. He's just asking for us to do that. So I think that it would be appropriate to have NCWS confirm whether or not the environmental engineering program is accredited. It
I
seems
would
to-
want to have I would rather have the degree evaluated to see if it has the equivalent of the courses, because like UConn offers a degree in environmental science, which is not an engineering degree and doesn't have engineering for the most part. So I think we should have his degree of, he should just go through a normal evaluation.
Right.
Yeah.
Want to make that motion, John, regarding William Potanchniak with a degree from Roger Williams in environmental engineering.
I move that we ask to have his degree evaluated by NCEES before we make a decision.
So the motion is to table the decision pending evaluation by NCWS of the environmental engineering curriculum. Is there a
Second,
second? Thank you, Robert. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to table pending evaluation of the degree, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Evaluate.
And do we want to go back to the class one? I have the information, the one
Yes.
that John had.
Yes,
So
please.
he has not taken any exams at all. He thinks he's coming here to, one, get the FE waived, and two, take just the 16-hour structural. So I told him that
This-
according to the board policy, he needs to take like a regular straight out civil exam first, or before he can take the 16-hour. So he's trying to,
That's the applicant, Amin.
yes,
Okay, so that makes more sense. So he has a PhD, you said, from Kansas, but he did not pass any exam, but he did pass the structures.
no, he hasn't taken anything.
Oh, okay, all right, all right. Oh, okay, so the permit class one exam implies then both exams.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I told him, that he's gonna need to take both. I don't think he was very happy with that, but that's what I told him. So,
Right, we would agree. We don't, right, John? We're not waiving any exam.
No, we're not waiving, so I will make the motion that Amin be approved to take both exams.
Okay.
second,
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
I did.
Robert, thank you. So we're going to approve to take both exams.
Yes.
If you have to reinforce that, it's been the policy of this board not to waive any exams.
Right.
You can state it, and that's the policy. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve Mr. Shahidrian Amin to take both exams, FE and PE. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I guess in retrospect, or further comment to my application for Di Giovanni, she did take both exams as a PhD. So no issue there. Okay, so that was one. Right, and then thank you for bringing us back to that, Jane, keeping us on track. Then the next group of applicants on our agenda, regular agenda, page 6, were to note the applicants for Class 9 license, Bafundo through Silve, variety of universities. So is there a motion to approve the Class 9 license?
So
So-
moved.
Thank you,
Second,
Richard.
John was made the motion.
John got the second.
Well, he,
All those in favor of the motion to approve Bafundo through Silve for Class 9 license, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The next group of applicants were for reinstatements on page 6 of our regular agenda, Michael Teague and Christopher Yanoni.
I make a motion to approve the reinstatement of Teague and Yanoni.
Second,
Second.
thank you, Al. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing on that, motion carries. And on our agenda, we have noted the proposed meeting dates for 2024 as we move forward. At this point, I see no issues. Any objections? Motion to accept for now.
So moved.
Thank you, Richard.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor to accept the meeting schedules as proposed, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. That brings us to our supplemental agenda.
What about we need to go back to Finch and Morrow. Are we gonna?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I tabled that. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, John. I had that on another page, the specific discussion. So I'm going to ask you to lead that discussion, John, because you made a very succinct evaluation. And I had the same concern, is that the NCWS evaluations seem opposite or
Yeah.
illogical. Let's go. So Mr.
But
Finch.
I think Rob made a very good point, that why were these opposite to what they should have been?
Correct.
Is it possible to ask NCEES to explain why their evaluation was made as it was?
I think that's appropriate under the circumstances. Each of us, I mean, last month and now again, when we reviewed them for my position over the weekend, it was like, it just doesn't make sense, you know, to have the way they did that. They approved the physics degree lacking 48 credits, you know, in the summary. And it just doesn't make sense. And when you look at the transcripts, I was trying to check off courses that you think would be qualified, and it just didn't make sense. So I think that a motion, if that's what you're suggesting, to put these two applications back to NCEES and ask them for a summary of how they came to that conclusion.
You know, and I agree, because I know that when I look at Finch's credentials, you know, they have, you know, courses, you know, other courses that were taken, and you know, she has 52, you know, credits in applied thermodynamics, you know, civil engineering, material soils, environmental microbiology, fluid flow, you know, hydraulic strength, you know, plane surveying, solid waste management, strength of materials, and they say, well, those don't count in terms of,
Yeah.
you know, why all of a sudden don't those count? You know, it's like, you know,
You know,
she took them, but they're not non-engineering courses, and I'm over there, huh?
That's where I am. I mean, this applicant has 27 years experience and has all the right courses. It has
Right.
passed the exams. So I don't think I don't understand why they came up with that, but because I think Finch is clear. Morrow's I'm very concerned about, because it is not an appropriate review. What they did is took 3 credit courses and counted them as 4 credits to get up to 48. That is fishy. There's something, I'm really concerned about how that was done.
Right. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with tabling the decision and asking for evaluation. I think we all came to the same confusion. The confusion
that's
conclusion.
correct.
Yeah.
The same confusion is correct.
The gist of this conclusion is confusion.
Well, is it legitimate? That's my question.
Right. So Would you like to make that motion, John? Got you on the motion.
I move that we ask NCEES to re-review their recommendations on these two candidates, Finch and Morrow.
Second.
Second, Robert. Jane, is it clear enough as to what we're asking them to do? I think we have to send both applications back to them and you know, physically say, how do you come to these conclusions with these seemingly different credentials?
And we're sending it to NCEES, not to
Yes.
the applicants.
Not to the applicants. So we notify the applicants that we've tabled the decision pending evaluation or evaluation by NCEES as to the
Accuracy of their
Accuracy.
evaluation.
yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. So all those in favor of the motion to table the decision on reciprocity for Finch and Morrow pending in-depth evaluation and what's the word? Is it justification?
I think we want an explanation from
An
NCEES.
explanation, an in-depth
Yeah.
explanation of the conclusion on the evaluation.
Yep.
So all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. So this we're gonna save for next month's discussion in January, and hopefully we'll have a decision from the NCEES or a response anyway. Okay. All right, now, where am I? Okay, so now we have a supplemental agenda. We are on page 1 of our supplemental agenda. We had Choi through Suriel that John DeWolf reviewed.
I don't have that supplemental agenda, at least I haven't found it. So bear with,
We can move on while you're looking.
like, well,
John, it came with the email yesterday.
okay,
I forwarded you a copy right now, John. Give me 1 second.
no, I got the thing, but it didn't seem to have anything attached to it.
You have
Maybe
to
I'm-
click on the
Oh, I'm
link.
not. Oh, okay, hold on. I apologize.
Yeah, I
Okay,
sent it with when I sent you the applications, it was attached to that email
I got
from
it.
me.
Okay. Okay, Troy. Through Surreal, permit class 1 exam credit part 1. I move approval of the group. They're all fine.
I'll second it.
All those in
Troy
favor of the
had a
motion to,
3 degree, and it was evaluated, no deficiencies.
okay. So motion and seconded to approve Choi through Suriel for class 1 credit part 1. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. On page 2 of the supplemental agenda, I reviewed all the applicants from Almaraz through Callaway. All but one were model law and a variety of disciplines, with the majority structural. But as a result, I would approve I recommend approval of all applicants, 9 of them, Almaraz through Callaway. Is there a motion to accept my recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Richard.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Al. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Then Bob Doan reviewed Cherny through Kalinowski for class 4 reciprocity.
Okay, I have a question on, and I didn't print all the applications, but Brian Deely is a non-model law engineer. He does have a excuse me, and that's goes back to Roger Williams, has a bachelor's in environmental engineering. He graduated in December of 1998. He has a master's in civil engineering from Northeastern University. And I did not I didn't see an evaluation. So if we could, I'll make a motion to table him to get an NCEES evaluation.
What name was that, Bob?
Deely, Deely.
Okay. So you need a,
Does the masters help?
The master's helps, John, but it's, hold on just a sec.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bob. I think it should be evaluated.
The master's had 9 courses, John. He had soils mechanic, advanced fundamental engineering, legal aspects, dynamic equivalent engineering, engineering geology, superficial water hydrology, soil dynamics, earthquake, and groundwater hydrology. But there are only 9, there were 9 courses. And so I don't know about the environmental courses.
Okay, I think evaluation makes sense.
Okay, that would be my motion to table it for an NCEES evaluation. And we need to request Brian to request that.
I'll second it.
so the motion to table the decision on Brian Deely for reciprocity pending evaluation of the undergraduate and graduate degree, or is it just the,
Well, to do a evaluation of his education.
okay,
Yes.
good. So all those in favor of the motion to table the decision for reciprocity on Brian Deely pending evaluation of the undergrad, of the education curriculum, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
And so the remaining applicants, I make a motion to approve for class 4 license.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Thank you, Richard. All
Give it
those
to
in-
Al. He doesn't get enough.
Hey, he's got one job and he does it well, so every once in a while we let him in on the seconds.
No, he's got to be involved more in our discussions. He's just
But
too
the
quiet.
motion is
here.
to approve Cherny, Cyphers, Hager, Heeran, Hupp, Jeffrey, Jung, and Kalinowski for class 4 reciprocity. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing on that, motion carries. Rob Lewandowski reviewed the next group, and to quote his review, Kane through Ray, They are all model law engineers with good degrees and good experience. I recommend approval of them all. Is there a motion to accept Rob's review and recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Robert. There's a second?
I'm
I
waiting.
think I
for
heard
Al.
Al.
Okay, I'll second it.
Thank you, Al. Well, you know what's funny? You're rattling the papers and your screen lights up, so that means you were responding. I just didn't hear you.
Oh, okay.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any
Just goes to
opposed?
show you, I do listen.
I know. All those in favor said, so the motion carries. Then moving on to page 3 of our supplemental agenda. We have 4 applicants, Reinhold, Rock, Sadiq, and Schuster, reviewed by Ryan Thompson.
Yeah, so Reinhold, Rock, and Sadiq, they all are model law, lots of good experience, plenty of, everything looks good for them, no issues. Schuster, I have a question about. So essentially, Schuster is very good. He's got 26 years total engineering experience. He's licensed in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. He's got a bachelor's degree from Northeastern and a master's from Northeastern, which are accredited. He's passed the fundamentals in the professional exam, but he shows absolutely zero experience under a licensed engineer, and I don't really know why, and I don't know that it matters. So that's kind of what I'm bringing it up, because his experience looks fine. He's, it looks like he did a lot of work in kind of a construction capacity initially, but then, he's moved on to writing some specs and reviewing. Let me get to that one. So develop, write, and certify engineering work plans for construction projects, including dewatering work plans, coffer dam plans, cultural landscape treatment plans, calculations to size and design water control systems. So again, his experience looks like it's primarily in the construction realm, but it is engineering, and he does have all the degrees and he has all the experience and he's licensed in other states, but there's no work under a licensed engineer, 0 out of 26 years. So I don't know exactly. I guess I offer it up to discussion.
I rarely look at whether it's under a licensed engineer. I look at the type of experience.
Right. And we've often come to the conclusion that, writing specifications is a major element of engineering because that's probably the base, and it's one of the most important things. Either you're going to get it done or not. And then, the education is certainly there. And we have, many applicants who are self-employed.
Yeah,
So-
because I think that we should also look at the fact that, we're trying to encourage, some of the larger corporations to have some of their engineers registered in terms of, people at Pratt Whitney or Hamilton Standard or Sikorsky, where, there are not a lot of, registered professional engineers. And even though they're doing, engineering work, it's not necessarily under, the supervision of a registered professional engineer. They have a lot of experience, but they're not registered. So I think that, looking at, that aspect of what we're trying to achieve, also dictates the fact that, as long as it's engineering, because I know I've looked at some applications where, they're just in the field all the time, and they're not necessarily doing design. And typically I equate being a professional engineer with doing design, but that's only because that's what I do. I design. But I think that,
We've
but
also
we
had
need
the
to,
discussion about the project engineer, the site engineer on the site making decisions every day is a
Right.
very important talent in tech.
right. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that you're still involved in the construction, sequence, so that, it counts as engineering, even if you're not doing design, you're just doing construction.
Right.
And you're supervising that construction. You're not necessarily a laborer who's digging the ditch. You're telling people what to do and how to do it, and trying to figure out the best way to achieve a certain end result.
So it sounds like the recommendation from Ryan is to approve Reinhold, Rocks, Sadik, and Schuster for Class 4 reciprocity. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you, Ryan, for that.
That is a good observation, though. I'd have to, the thing is, we've all struggled with that when we first start as to,
Yeah.
what constitutes good engineering and bad engineering. But, again, once you start recognizing that's, a step forward that you're on the right track.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And like I said, I don't think that anything about his application is bad in any way, except for just was a little bit of a, why has none of it been under a licensed engineer? So appreciate the discussion. I really do.
So is there a motion
I'll go
to
ahead.
accept?
I'll make a motion to accept, and I'd like to also add that nowadays, being a sole proprietor that I am, and with the internet and everything that we submit to towns, I don't think I have a project that doesn't have peer review by the commissions that we're dealing with, and I'm constantly for 4 commissions doing peer reviews, and there's an open communication between all the engineers that I work with and myself, and so there's a lot of particularly with the internet, there's a lot of back and forth between other engineers, so you're not working in a vacuum, if you will. So I agree with you, Ryan, that and I'll make a motion to approve all 4 of the applicants.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Richard. Any further discussion?
Why
All of
can't
the-
Ryan make the motion?
We debated that. I think the decision was that we had something from one of our legals
Okay,
that said that at this point, he can certainly be involved, but he's not serving as a member. Is that correct, Jane? Do you remember? I have it somewhere in the other room, but
That's
Yeah,
all.
that's correct. He can he can add his input or his recommendations, but he can't vote or make a motion to vote on
okay,
PE matter.
I just think he should be able to, but that's,
Yeah,
you know, we all
I
do,
do
but that's
too.
why
I
we had
agree
to
with
ask the
that
question.
too, but
As long as
Okay.
Ryan wants to contribute and review applications, I think it's a benefit to the board and to the profession to have as many people involved in evaluation. And
right. And
we're
in the
accomplishing what we wanted to do and stayed within our legal limits. So
And then.
any
then
further
Ryan-
discussion?
yeah,
All those in
Ryan
favor of the
can-
motion to approve Reinhold, Rock, Sadik, and Schuster, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing on that, motion carries. Then Richard Swezak reviewed the next group of applicants for Class 4 reciprocity. Shots through Zavoniara. I don't know. I'm a little short on that one. Zavonari.
yeah,
Zavonara.
well, I just have one comment in terms of, they're all model law except for one gentleman who's Mena Wasef. He got his degree from Egypt. He's 12 hours short in general education. But the thing that concerns me is that he has his fundamentals and his principles from something called AUC. And I'm not sure what AUC means in terms of it's not a state. And I'm wondering, who is AUC that gave him the, tests? Because I look at his evaluation and, NCSS, says, that it's, in their review in terms of it's not by any kind of state or entity. It's, their review is the fact that, let me go back a couple of pages here.
Just as
get
just as a FYI, I asked Barbara about that because I had no idea. So she told me that it's the American University of Cairo, and they're the only organization in Egypt to work with NCEES, and that the grades are accepted.
Well, yeah, I know that the grades are accepted, but do they administer the professional engineering tests and the fundamentals of engineering testing also?
There has been, yeah, they have had discussions at the national meetings about offsite, in other jurisdictions, exams from the practicality of administering it, that's a problem. How do you administer the exam? So they must have some arrangement to administer the exam in a foreign country. For a while there, it was like, why are we traveling all over the world to make it available for foreign engineers to pass our exam? They want to take it in the US, that's a different story. But that's something that you could, just verify that there was administration of the exam by NCSS in Egypt. I think you could probably approve this subject to verification that, in fact, NCSS administered the examination in Egypt.
Yeah,
There
in
may have
terms
been
of,
others.
yeah, because I think that, there isn't an NCSS verification of examination, and all it says verified by NCSS on behalf of AUC on, a certain date back in 2016. So I mean,
As a refresher, maybe Jane, would you mind inquiring of NCSS, where or what, in what foreign countries are the exams administered? I know it's been a discussion. I don't know how far it has gone. In the last couple, I don't recall that it was discussed at all. It was a matter of how much does NCSS want to spend trying to accommodate a few engineers in foreign countries?
Okay, I'll reach out to them.
Yeah. So if it's appropriate, Richard, maybe it's an approval subject to verification that in fact they were, properly administered through AUC by an arrangement with NCSS.
Yes, and I guess that's, the only, condition that I would put on it is that, if it is an NCSS, accredited test that they took and it meets our criteria, then I would, move to approve the entire group. So that,
Just out of curiosity, where's this individual living, working, practicing?
let me go back in terms of right now where is he living? It doesn't say. There's a phone number of 818.
But what's the company that he lists as his employment?
I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. They're from Egypt, California. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's out in California because he does have a PE from California. That's right.
He does or does not?
He does.
Okay.
So he does have a PE from California. But that's all he has.
Okay. So is your motion to approve Shastru Zavornyai by, let me try it one more time. Zaborin Aryav. Is that your motion, subject to verification that Wasif did in fact take and pass both exams administered by NCSS?
Correct. That is my motion.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, I need a second. Is there a second to that motion? Thank you, Robert. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I'm just making one more note here. Okay, thank you. That leaves us to our last applicant for a Class 10 license reviewed by John DeWolf.
Yeah, I'm going to move approval, but Jane, the question is, if I look at the Class 9 versus Class 10, the applicants checked class 9 graduate from an accredited degree program, but has a bachelor's from India, and which was evaluated, I assume, and a master's from the University of Massachusetts. You have it changed it to class 10, which was a foreign undergraduate degree requiring a evaluation by NCEES. And yet there's another class 9 that says a foreign undergraduate degree with US postgraduate degree. And I thought it was that was the more appropriate, that class 9, foreign undergraduate degree and US postgraduate degree.
Okay, so then should we transfer to a 9 then?
Well, I think either one is fine. I'm just questioning which one it should be.
It sounds like in the past, remember, we used to, in the early days, we used to accept the masters in the U.S. institution as qualification of the foreign degree. So I agree with John that it's been the practice to pretty much stay with the 9, class 9, with the masters for the one extra year, right?
Okay, but I still think we need to see that we continue to have the undergraduate degree evaluated by NCEES. Okay, so I'll move approval under class 9.
And there has been an evaluation, correct? Or is that an
Okay.
issue?
So what I was told is that they can, because they, you know how with the EIT, they can take it whenever they want. They don't
Correct.
need prior approval. So I was told that if they have the foreign degree, like they'll be approved for the EIT, but should they go to apply for the PE, then they would need to get their degree
Okay.
evaluated.
All right, that makes sense, because
Yep,
that's the
I
trend.
agree.
That's the trend nationally. They want anybody to be able to take it in their freshman year, you know, it's, yeah. So maybe
So
10 is more appropriate because there hasn't been an evaluation yet.
Right. So we're approving her for approving her EIT license under class 9. And that's the motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
thank you, Al. Any further discussion? The point is, either way, at some point, when they come in for license, the education would have to be evaluated.
Right.
Okay. So the motion is to approve Kaya Raghavan Ram for class 9 license. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. So this one was a foreign degree without NCEES EIT for a foreign degree without NCEES evaluation. Okay. I think that actually completes our agendas.
I do have 2 items that I want to bring up. We don't have to discuss them today, but I'd like to get them on the schedule
Yep.
for the next time we have the surveyors in the room, which actually will probably need to be the February meeting. I don't think I'm going to be able to attend the January one, but
Okay,
there's a couple of items that need to be discussed that are going on. One, a new datum is coming. And with that, the change from the international, or from the U.S. survey foot to the international foot. And currently our code, our state regulations actually specify the use of the U.S. survey foot. So we have to make some changes to the code, which requires apparently the reconstitution or formation of a committee that basically it consists of some number of people from this board, some number of people from PELS. I don't know all the details of it, but there's going to need to be a committee formed that meets some regulatory or some statutory requirements in order to make these changes. As part of that, there's a big discussion going on within PELS and within the surveying community at large about the use of GNSS real-time kinematic networks for boundary surveys. And PELS has decided to start a committee to look at writing guidelines for surveyors to use for boundary surveys. However, the problem is that our current statutes are that for A2 standard of accuracy, there's closure calculations which don't exactly equate to the positional accuracy standards of GPS. And we want to come up with some sort of equivalence, and then probably we'll again need to change the code to accommodate that, because so in other words, you could have a class A2 equivalency using GNSS real-time kinematic. And again, this is all going to take some time, but we need to discuss this within this board, because this board has some sort of role in the development of that standards committee. So again, we don't need to discuss. I'm not actually prepared to discuss it any more in depth than that right now. But if we could maybe put it on the agenda for February, because I won't be here in January, and then make sure we have the surveying members present for that. I think that, and I can be more prepared and send out some information in advance of that meeting for everybody to review, so that we can do whatever actions are necessary to, I guess, establish that committee, or whatever. Again, I actually know very little about it, but by that point, I should be able to have some path forward on what this board needs to do.
Where is the what is the status of the initiation of this discussion about the kinematic real time? Where is that emanating right now?
So it's been in COW's discussions for well over a year. Over when we had the annual meeting last month, there was a roundtable discussion where we had I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he's a professor at UConn who runs the Acorn network system, and he came and gave us some information. And as a result of that meeting, that roundtable, it was fairly unanimous in the room. Kind of a vote was taken of whether or not the surveying community in the state at large wanted COWs to, form a committee to look at the GPS, and everybody wanted it. So specifically, what they wanted was for COWs to develop I won't say a standard, because that would imply an enforcement, but a set of guidelines that would allow the establishment of this equivalency. So as of the meeting a week ago at COWS, it was decided that they would form the committee. I think at this point, several members have been identified as being bumped on it, but it's not fully finalized. But the committee will be formed. That was agreed to, and we will begin studying, this and putting together some guidelines for publication in conjunction with the change in the datum and the change in the U.S. survey foot to the international foot, which is all coming down.
Well, based on our past experience
Mm-hmm.
in changing regulations and statutes, this might be an opportune time, because it's really being forced upon us, so that the legislators can't really argue with it. It's a mandate from the federal government. It has to be done.
Right.
And it's somewhat of a no-brainer. But at that time, however it has to be worded, it might be an opportune time to also bring our education section up to date, right, John?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, and on that, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but on that note, I will say PELS does wholeheartedly support, an education, continuing education requirement as well. And that is something that we've discussed before. Sorry, John, didn't mean to step over you there.
Yeah. See, continuing education may be a little bit more controversial. But the main thing was initially to get rid of the sections of our statutes and regulations that allow for waivers and oral exams and various classes that don't make sense anymore. So, it's also a strategic issue, and I don't know who we can get to advise. But overloading the proposed changes could be detrimental overall. They can strike things if they want and be told, hey, you have to do the data. We have to make that legitimate. You have to be able to enforce it with, statutory backup. But we don't necessarily agree with your other aspects, and we'll ignore them because it's overwhelming in concept and it doesn't affect me, so I don't care, kind of attitude. We've seen it, so we just want to be aware of that as we approach it. And I think CALS has to understand that, and I don't know if CALS is the right group to come up with the funding that is going to be necessary to get it done. It's just a reality. If you ask me as a professional, you want to contribute to the fund, I would say, yeah. If you wanted to ask everybody in CALS to contribute to the fund, I doubt you get them all done. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, I just wanted to put it on the future, agenda so that we can be prepared to discuss it, specifically for the GNSS, the datum change, and the international. Yeah. Those are the three specific ones. We also do want to discuss practicing without a license, which continues to occur in the surveying community, and unfortunately, that's not something that we can really do much here. But that is another issue that continues to be to plague us, and it really comes down to the fine for doing so not being, I think it's $1,000 versus the plumbing and electrical trades. Theirs is like $10,000, and and so I guess what CALS would be looking for from this board is just some sort of consensus or recommendation or input as to whether or not there should be a consideration in changing that fine, but that's almost secondary to the other issue. So
at this point, I'll say I don't know whether or not the most recent hearing that we had that relative to an individual practicing without a license has proven successful, because there's no teeth in it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so the legislators, as wanting to change the regulations or the statutes that enable us as a board to impose fines, has to be made. And they'll say, well, that's not right, or that's too aggressive. So somebody in authoring the legislation has to make it very clear that other professions have the teeth in it, and we don't.
And again, I'm just bringing it up more for just understanding at this point and for potential discussion. But Angus McDonald, I guess, has been involved with the legislation trying to get something done, and I don't believe he's been extremely successful at this point. But like you said, the main issue is there's no teeth to the enforcement of, when people do practice without a license. The only real teeth there are is if the clients and neighbors decide to sue. So.
Right. And the other aspect of that, Ryan, has been discussed, and I think it was discussed right after you got appointed to the board, was that complaints, and Janita gets a little defensive, but the fact is that complaints take 3 years to adjudicate, and again, no enforcement, no immediate effect, and then they appeal it, and it's like, keep practicing because you're never going to have a problem. And by the way, here's $1,000, do whatever you want with it. They don't probably didn't even pay that. But in the interim, then before February, then if you have the momentum in contact with CALS, I think they have to come forward with, how that could possibly be affected, and the ramifications of it, so we can discuss it. What is it going to take to get it a transfer into this international foot? They have to outline what has to be done. Statutes and regulations, both.
Yeah, well, again, like I said, I don't have enough, more than what I've spoken just now. I don't
Okay.
have enough detail to get into too much of it now, but by February, I do fully intend to have a whole lot more information, and we'll provide it to everybody on this board through Jane, for you to review. But also, we need the other surveyor members here to discuss, so.
Right. But I'm not up to date on it, and I don't know whether Ken is either. So we have to, anything you can provide in advance during January so we can start to do some research. I'm going to go in the back and discuss it with our guys right now and see where that is leading, So, all right, we all got to do it. You're right. And then we have to be prepared to enforce it, but we can't enforce it if there's no statute that allows it.
Right.
All right. Productive meeting.
All right.
Where's Al?
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Al. Is there a second?
Because I'm going to be in Colorado next month, so Jane, you can send me some applications, but don't overwhelm me. So, and I'll have to get up extremely early in order to attend the 9 o'clock meeting here. So,
We know you can do it.
oh my, I hope I could do it.
One less
So.
run the day before, you'll make it.
Yeah.
All right, good enough.
Okay, guys. Thank
Okay,
you,
see
Jane.
ya.
Thank you.
Happy holidays,
Thank you.
everybody.
Okay, happy holidays.
Holidays to all of you.
Thank
See you
you.
next
Happy
year.
holidays.
Okay.